Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second episode of Ordinary People, Extraordinary Lives. And I'm delighted today to share with you Pamela Smith. Pamela has been a long-time friend, and we're doing this series just to share with you other people's spiritual journeys, how they turned from a normie to a muggle, I guess if you want to call it that way, and are living their lives an extraordinary way, not in the normal way, but following spirit, opening up their hearts, sharing their gifts with the world. And so I'm delighted to welcome Pamela.
Hi, it's nice to be here with you.
All right, great. So let's start out with the fun stuff. I really want to hear about your spiritual journey. What really engaged you to connect with spirit?
Ah, so when I was 4 years old, I remember the angels coming to me and connecting with me then. So from the time that I was little, the angels were always a big part of my life. And, they were my friends. They were, they would come and play with me because I lived in a house where it was difficult. So that's like my first experience with that other side. And I thought that everybody did that. Because I was raised very Catholic, I made the mistake of telling a priest when I got to be like 7, that about the angels, and he was mortified. And he told me they were devils in disguise and I needed to push them away. And then I was terrified. And I'm like, but wait a minute, they're my friends. They make me, they've always been kind and loving. So I had this constant battle inside of me going on with these beings that were very loving and helped me get through some really difficult things. And, that what the Catholic Church said, is that only a priest can be your go-between and things. So that was really difficult. So I kind of pushed the angels back the older that I got, um, until uh, until I had children. And my kids were very open and they would see things in the house. So it was like, oh, okay, so here we go again. And, I always encouraged them and told them about, my time connecting with angels, and how that wasn't something they should be going and telling people. But whenever my marriage broke up, my world just exploded with angels. Okay. So I remember, because I lived in a very tiny town in Pennsylvania and everybody was Catholic. And it's like if you weren't Catholic, you were kind of pushed out. And when people heard that I was getting a divorce, I was like pushed out of the church. And I remember, so my husband had left, and I had $20 in my hand going to the grocery store to feed 4 kids. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel so low. I think even my guardian angel must have left me. At that exact time that went through my mind, I looked down at the ground, and right at the tip of my shoe was this little angel pin with an angel on it. Now, it wasn't just any angel image, it was the exact guardian angel pin that had hung over my bed as a child. And then all that angel connections came whooshing back over me. And I got back in my car and just cried and cried and cried. And I'm like, wait a minute, they heard me. What else can they do? So that began my working with them. And because I had always said I was the poster child for what not to do with your life. So I said, if you really want to work with me, I'm going to need you to prove this to me, because I was really feeling low. And I would say, if this is really you, I want to get a package from somebody that I haven't seen in a long time. And all these things would happen, and I got so specific. And the last thing I remember that I asked, I said, I want to see a rainbow. And I remember being such a smart aleck at the time that I went all day and I hadn't seen a rainbow. And I sat on a car hood and I was looking up at the sky and I'm like, well, no rainbow, guys. I guess we're not going to be working together. And I heard the angel say, well, look down. And I did. And the license plate on the car I was sitting on had Crainbo, see rainbow, right under me. And I'm like, okay, tell me what to do. And from then it was just like all these messages. What do you need to do to change your life? What do you need to do? And it was like being totally immersed in angel energy. So that kind of made me, it turned my life around and it really helped me a lot. And then my sister Shelly told me about you and Milt and how she had connected with you. And I was so fascinated because she said, you'll really like them. They're very down to earth. They're real people. Because I was thinking, people on their spiritual path needed to be like really strange with turbans and crystal balls and stuff. And she said, you're just going to love Susan. She's just like, the lady around the corner. And I remember when you and Milt read for me, and Milt said, in everything you do in your life, angels are going to play a big part for you. That to me, that just like my heart just opened up so big there. And you said, come on out for our Angel Valley Free Your Spirit weekend. And that was the first time when I was there. I started seeing spirit guides. I had no idea what a spirit guide was, but you did. And, you told me about this. I said, who's this Native American that just keeps petting my hair? I'm like, I want to push her away. And you told me who she was. And it was so wonderful to see there was so much more. I hadn't opened up to all that yet. So, and then you asked me, will you draw my spirit guide for me? And that took my life in a whole different direction. So that's when I began, allowing myself, because I was an artist by nature, allowing myself to draw the beings that I saw, the angels and the spirit guides. And that was really fun. And I would get downloaded with all this information about them and draw the picture and then share the information with the person. It didn't have to be with me, they could be, in another country or whatever. So I did that for a while, and that was really fun. And then Spirit said, we want you to do readings in person and sit with the person and draw their angel at the same time. I'm like, absolutely not. I can't do that. I had been a pet portrait artist for years, so drawing a face resembling a human wasn't in my wheelhouse. But I found when I just got out of my head and out of my way that I could do that. And it was almost like the drawing took care of itself. And I could be so connected with their angels and with their heart that the drawing just flowed from there. So I did that for a number of years. I traveled with Body, Mind, and Spirit expos all over the Western United States, met people from all over the world at these expos, and a lot of them are, I still keep in touch with now. Every now and then they'll check in for an angel check in. But it's been really wonderful. And then I started teaching people how to connect with their own angels, uh, teaching people how to expand their intuition. And that's where I find my greatest joy because it's like, I want y'all to know how to do this so I can just be an artist and you can be doing all this yourself. And my favorite thing is to be working with someone and you can actually see the light bulb go over their head. It's like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And they'll tell me all these wonderful synchronicities and these amazing things that happen to them. And that just makes me feel so happy because I know what the angels did for me in changing my life. And, you know, it's really changed my perspective over the years about the spiritual journey because, at first it's like, changing my life here on earth. And then it's like, it's more about the soul and changing your vibe and becoming that love and connecting with others with that love. And I feel so blessed to be able to do that. And it's really a lot of fun. I've met the most wonderful people, had crazy adventures. Like when we went to Medjugorje with your group, that was something to me that was so healing and fun.
Mhm. Very
Yeah,
cool. Um, do you think that your work with the angels, you came in with it, so I'm assuming you've done it before in another lifetime.
yeah,
But also, as you were sharing your story, I was thinking, well, this lifetime was going to be particularly difficult when you were a child,
yeah.
and the angels came in with you.
Mhm.
Um, and they've always been with you. And of course, we're very, very human. You know what I mean? And I love that you fought it because I always called myself the reluctant medium. It's not,
Yes,
no, I don't want to do this. And again, this goes to this whole concept of people saying, I can't not follow my soul's path or my soul's work. And I think it's extraordinary that you've been able to probably even through difficult
very.
times in life,
Yeah.
you still followed your heart's calling.
And it was just like you said, I couldn't not. Something would always happen to pull me forward.
Mhm.
Like when the opportunity to go to Medjugorje happened, I didn't have the money to go there. And all of a sudden, the money was there. It's like, you're going.
Going.
And whenever I had a friend who was a healer and was telling me about the Body Mind Spirit Expos, and I'm like, I can't go there. And I would just, and do that and speak in those great big auditoriums and stuff and give a talk. Oh my goodness. But she's like, yes, you can. You're going to do it. I already signed up. We're going, and I was like, and it always turned out beautifully. It's like when I lean into the energy, it's like, we got you. We got you.
That's really cool. And honest, I don't remember that I had asked you to paint my spirit guide. I still have that one. Her name was Athena.
Uh huh.
Um, yeah, and I still have that. That would you call it a drawing or a painting, or do you do it by chalk, or I
Yeah,
think
she was, yeah, that one was done in chalk at the time. Yeah, I did a couple of them in chalk and then I painted them and then I've done them in pencil and colored pencil. And so, just,
Do you have any on your computer that you could share? Do you have any pictures of them on the computer that you could share? Maybe I can put let's see, multiple can share simultaneously. So,
uh, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm afraid I might accidentally break this
okay,
connection.
okay. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put your work up on the casadesantamaria.org website. And so if you want to see some of Pamela's work, you can do that by going to the Casa de Santa Maria website. And I think we'll call it Shop. So you could actually schedule a session there with Pamela and learn more about your angel. Are you still doing spirit guide portraits?
Yes, absolutely. I always kind of let it open. Most people are open to either the
Yeah.
angel or the spirit guide, but I always say, whoever they most need right now, please
Mhm,
step forward. So,
mhm.
and sometimes we get both, but I'll only draw one.
Right. Exactly. Well, I do want to share a little story. I had asked you years ago, well, gosh, I had to be 19 when my granddaughter was born. I don't know if you remember
Yes,
doing.
I do.
Okay. And you drew a picture of her angel. Her name was Lucy.
Yeah.
And I had a daughter-in-law that was kind of skeptical and that kind of thing, but it had come to the point where they had to put her in daycare.
Uh-huh.
And they took her to daycare, and the gal that took little Helen into her arms, she said, oh, by the way, my name is Lucy. And it made my daughter-in-law feel so relieved. It just
Oh.
connected that name with like that she was going to be all right, she was going to be
Mhm.
fine in daycare.
I
And
love when those things happen.
yes.
That's best. That give me goosebumps.
Yeah, good. So it was like a little nod from her angel to her mom that it's okay. She's going to be okay, and she's going to be looked after. And believe it or not, now my granddaughter is, I think, 19. She just graduated
Oh,
high school last year, and
wow.
she's becoming a massage therapist. Who would have thought?
Oh, how
You know?
perfect.
Yeah, I know. So that was really cool. With just a little story to let you know that there are things probably that happen that you really don't know after you've done the work, or after you've shared that info. That I think there's.
Sometimes people have written me letters back or emails how things resonated with them. And I save those things so that I can like encourage myself when I think, I don't want to do this anymore. And I
Right.
feel real grouchy. Yeah.
Yeah. As you've worked with the angels, what have you learned personally through this work that has helped move you forward? So, like, I know that, you went through a difficult time with the loss of
Yeah.
Shelley.
Yeah.
Shelley was Milt and I's friend. We did readings for her for a long time, and then we sort of lost touch. Um, and Shelley passed away. What year did she pass away?
21.
In
Yeah.
21. Yeah. How did they help you? Did they help you through that experience? Did they keep you
Uh,
at peace?
Yes, yes. That was actually a really cool story, not only with the angels, but with Mother Mary, because Mother Mary was like a main guide for both Shelley and I as we were growing up. And when we were dialing into like the last month of Shelley's life, when she was struggling with her cancer, she had breast cancer that went to her brain. Um, Everything showed up with Mother Mary in the place. It almost got to the point where we were like, there she is again, and there she is again. So it was really wonderful. Um, but after Shelley passed, um, I got very angry. And I was like, she was like my baby and my twin all rolled up into one. I just loved her so much. And I kind of was pushing everything away, and I could feel the angels like leaning on me and that comfort coming in. So I remember the one day I just laid on the floor and just cried and cried and cried, but then it kind of broke things open. And I said, I need a total refresher course. I want you to start right at the beginning. I want to push everything off the table that I know, and I want you to come in and show me and teach me and rebuild me. And they did in all these wonderful little ways. And they gave me more little tips and things, how to work with them, how to keep myself centered, and how to stay focused and not to go into grief. The one thing that was really strong when I was connecting with them and saying, help me again, I could feel Shelley there. And I said, oh, I just wanted to take care of you. And you know how Shelley was. She said, I never asked you to take care of me. I only wanted you to love me. And I'm like, and I certainly did. So that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I don't think if they had come in, if I think that had the angels not opened that space because I was in such grief, I don't think I would have been able to hear her.
got it, got it. So, um, when you work with the angels for other people, do they go into like their personal struggles or their spiritual growth questions, or what do you find that mostly comes through from the angels for people?
The first thing that always comes through is something that people usually call when something is spinning in their mind and they're ruminating about something or they're having a big problem. They usually address something to do with that first to calm the mind,
Mhm.
and then they will go into what's happening in the background, because what we see in front of us isn't really what's happening. We've got to look past that and see what really is there, and that's more about your soul. And what your soul needs sometimes is very different than what you think your humanness is looking for. A lot of times, like people come and they're asking questions that are more related to their wounds and not really to where their soul is. Oftentimes, they might be really uplifted and excited to see how much the angels have already been connecting with them in their lives. They will see all the little synchronicities, they'll point out, certain things they did and they'll go, I remember that. That was them. Yeah, that was them. So once they see they already have that connection, that helps them to be open. So you need to start looking at things through spirit's eyes instead of the human eyes. And
Mhm.
that really helps a lot of times, especially when you're spinning or you get in those victim mode, like everybody's doing everything to me.
Mhm. Interesting.
Makes
Yeah. Do you do group sessions as well, or
me do. And
you?
I've done that since I used to live in Arizona. So that was like, I started that in 2005. The most that I've ever done at one time, we had like 53 people in my friend's house in Callahan, Florida. They had a big spiritual gathering once a month, and it was the neatest thing. And my friend Karen tells me, I don't know how you did that. You greeted everybody by name. And she said, there were people there you never met before. And I'm like, that was not me, that was their angels. And it was really fun. It took a long time, but everybody got a message and it was really beautiful. Um, Usually we'll have anywhere from maybe 8 to 12, 15, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Where
But
are you
they'll
living?
start with a big message, then they will like little things about that message will reflect to each one.
Nice, nice. Where are you living now? In Virginia, is it now?
Yes, I live in Lynchburg, Virginia right now. And if you could see my place, I'm packing. I have boxes everywhere. I'm actually moving back to Pennsylvania to be close to my kids and my grandkids.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So let's
Like
talk a
time.
little bit about your art because I've always loved your art. You've done some amazing things. You did this incredible picture of Jesus that we have. So tell us a little bit about that picture that came about. I mean, we feel like it's one of the most amazing pictures of Jesus, that we've ever seen. And again, I wish we will have to throw this up on the website. Some of these pictures that you've created or portraits that you've drawn so that you can see them. So we'll put them up on our casadesantamaria.org website. But tell us a little bit about that painting of Jesus and how that came about.
Okay, that was actually probably the strongest spirit energy that I ever worked with when I'm doing a spirit portrait. When I'm connected with the spirit, I will feel them. I will see them like I see you right now.
Mhm.
Um, but the energy that came through that was stronger than anything. So I started actually painting St. Francis. Okay. I was going to do St. Francis. And it was like, no, we're going to do Jesus. And I'm like, okay. Um, and all of a sudden, it was like my hands were going and I was just watching and I would hear in my head what color to pick up next. And it was just really fast. And I have to know how I work. I'm like so anal retentive when it comes to painting. And if I do a picture, sometimes I would fuss over it for, a week, 2 weeks, a month. And this picture was done in 30 minutes. It was totally complete. And it was so incredible. And the face and what it radiated to me. And I was actually crying as I'm creating it. And there was a saying that came with it. It says, bring to me your broken, empty hearts. I will mend them and fill them with my love.
Mhm.
And I remember specifically when I finished it, there was like one spot on it that I looked and I'm like, oh, that needs touch there. And my hand was like, it's going on its own. And it went and finished the painting. And it was just so beautiful and done.
Do you
And
still
that was
have the
on,
original? Do you still have the original?
um, I don't. I actually sold the original and I have sold more copies of that painting than any other of my paintings.
Mhm.
And I've had really wonderful little notes that came from someone. Um, the first little note that I got back from someone is there was a father who was ill in the hospital, and the mother and daughter were praying, and they had that picture hanging up. And the daughter said, "He smiled at me. I saw him smile." And when I read that, I mean, like, oh, I just started crying again because I thought that's the energy that I felt when I was painting that radiant love that comes through that image.
Mhm. Very good. Very, very good. What is the future for you? Like, is there something calling you that you're not doing yet? Do you know what I mean? Like, I could see a book. Have you been working on a book?
Well,
Sharing
actually,
stories?
I have I have several chapters of a book about my experience, and every time that I get back into it, I think, does the world really need one more book about how you're doing what you're doing? So I kind of stopped myself there. I've done several children's books. I've illustrated children's books for other people, but like my story, I have little things written with that. And maybe I will use those chapters when I do like a group angel reading somewhere. I don't know if I want if that's because a lot of times, honestly, Susan, people will come to me and they say, "I just wrote this book and I know it's going to be number one. My angels told me that. My spirit guides told me that it's going to be on Oprah Winfrey." And I'm like, Yeah, yeah, you probably wrote that to heal yourself,
Mhm.
or that was more about you and you. So that's, I think, why I'm a little bit reluctant to create that. But, as you know, I am a cartoonist and I love to draw cartoons. So those are like the little books that I do, little inspirational books like that. So if they tap me on the head and say, put those chapters together in something, and then maybe some of the how-tos, how, the angels said to connect with us, and, those little tips and tools, I would do that.
Okay. Well, let me just give you a little different perspective, all right,
Okay.
on sharing your story. It's not about how many books you're going to sell.
Okay.
It may just be one person that gets that book that changes their lives, that goes on to do greater things because you shared your story. Does that make sense?
It does.
Second of all, it's about putting the energy of it out in the world. It's not about putting necessarily the physical, even though it comes into physical. It's about giving it form,
Mm-hmm.
but energetically, it changes the whole consciousness and goes into the whole consciousness of the planet because you wrote it down, you gave it form, you gave it uh, uh, definition. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about whether it's going to be sold by a bunch of people, bought by a bunch of people, but it could be, it's kind of like being a mother, being a great mother to one of your kids that goes on to do great things. Do you know what I mean? It's the little energy push for the consciousness of the planet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage you
Okay.
to either put it, whether you ever print it or anything else, that you write the story. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? You give it form. That's the way creation happens. Do you know what I mean? And you never know that one person that needed to hear that exact same thing, like you started out with Milt, and
Uh-huh.
what he
Yeah.
told you
Mm-hmm.
that changed you.
Mm-hmm. It did.
You see what I'm saying? And so when you look at writing your books, it's more about and the energetics of it than it is about the physical form of it. Does that make sense?
It does, and I will do that. I will
Yeah,
do that. Like I said, I've already started. I have different things written down, so I will do that.
yeah, yeah. And see where it goes.
And just like you said, even if it's just for one person, because I was thinking, how many? amazing, wonderful people that Spirit put in my life to lift me when I needed. And I thought, wouldn't you want to be that? Heck yeah.
Yeah. I guess and then the other thought that comes to me is, you went through some difficult things in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you know how many people are going through difficult things?
Everybody. Lots and lots of people.
And if
Yeah.
they just knew how the
Yeah.
angels helped you get through it, they didn't necessarily stop the difficult things,
No.
but they
But they
loved
gave
you.
me the tools to navigate.
Correct.
And they kept reiterating, you are so loved. We are here with you. And something that they've often told me is everyone knew without a shadow of a doubt that they were loved unconditionally. It would change everything. So I can do that. When I lived in Arizona for a short time, I worked with a group of women that had been uh, battered. And I shared my story with them. And there was one woman she was really heavy, walking with a cane. She had oxygen on, and it really touched her. And she kept in touch with me and, telling her my story, how I crawled out from under things with the angel's help. And so she started connecting with them. And I met her 2.5 years later. I didn't recognize her because she was healthy and she was strong. And she said, that's what this did to me. So it should have been a little thing there. It's like write that story down. But
Yeah. Well, and that's
yeah,
a
it
perfect example of
did.
sharing your story that
Right,
changed someone's life.
right.
And, and that's kind of why we titled this Ordinary People, Extraordinary Lives,
Mm,
because there's so much going on behind the scenes in people's lives and most people don't know that there's angelic help or
no,
Mother Mary's help or Jesus's help
yeah.
or learning to invite them in through the struggles of life. You
Hmm.
and of course, we've talked about, this before many times. This is usually when the shit hits the fan, we start reaching out for, is that unseen world there?
Yes,
Does it
right,
love me? Can it help me?
right,
And
right.
that's the message. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot, Pamela, too, is what's going to change the world is healing the broken heart. It's
Absolutely.
the heart. It's the only thing
Yeah,
that's going to change the world. And so your work is so important to the big scheme of things. You may not reach Oprah level things, but
yeah.
you just have it's one heart at a time.
Right. And I would be good with that, that I'm comfortable with that, and I've seen that make a difference in a lot of people's lives from notes that I've gotten over the years back from people that were really touching. And it makes me really grateful that I went through all that hard stuff with the angels, that they pushed me through things where when I first started, I was so shy. And the thought of getting up in front of people and talking about angels just made me want to throw up. And I remember being in Santa Monica and I was going to give a talk in front of this big auditorium, and I'm like having a panic attack as I'm standing holding on to the podium and the people aren't let in yet. And behind me, there was a door and it was open right into Santa Monica traffic. And I'm thinking, oh, I could run into traffic or I could give this talk. And I was thinking, that wasn't such a bad option at that time to run into traffic. But just like always happened, the first people in the door was someone from the spiritual co-op from another state who just happened to be there. She come up and she gave me a hug and she said, if you're scared, you just look at me. I'm going to sit right in front of the podium. Took it all away. But as soon as I started opening my mouth and the angels stepped into me, it took it all away. But just for those moments, that horrible panic, do this, I can't do this. Oh my God, what makes me think I can?
Right. And yet you did. and I know that feeling, it's like whenever you step into the a new world that we're not used to. And I think that a lot of times, and I don't know what you think, Pamela, but a lot of times people have gifts, but they're terrified to use them in the world because they're afraid of ridicule or nobody will believe them, or they'll be skeptical and challenge it.
See
Um,
that all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's because they're scared. Um,
They're scared for a lot of reasons,
mhm,
and having the doubt. I think what are other people going to think of me is the number one thing, because it goes against, my family, it goes against whatever. And I personally don't know how you can't, because that push for me was so powerful. You're going to do it,
right.
and I couldn't say no.
Mhm. Good, good,
Then
good.
I think later, why would I want to? Because it's always turned out lovely and loving.
I'm really interested in your process as far as seeing the angels or the spirit guides or Mother Mary. Do you see them in full blown color? Do you have,
It's different every time.
yeah.
It's different every time. Oftentimes, like when I first started, um, I would maybe see a spirit guide and I would hear them in a dialect, but I would know what they were saying.
Mhm.
I remember this one Irish woman that I was drawing and I could hear her speaking, but I knew what she was saying. But I saw her just like I see you, that bright. Sometimes I will only get a vision in my third eye of them. And that usually happens when I'm working in a big crowd, like when I would do the drawings and readings when I was with Body Mind Spirit Expo. When I would draw them quick, I would only see them in my third eye, and the drawing would kind of take place on its own. When I'm doing a painting, I will see them just like I see you, except they glow from the inside. Angels and spirit guides glow from in here, kind of like ET, you
Mhm.
know? And that's the only difference. I still think, everybody's a different kind of artist, and I thought, I'll just do the best I can. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great. I love the painting behind you with the monarch butterflies. Was there any inspiration for that particular painting?
Absolutely, yes. That painting, I call it freedom. So all the green pixels that you can see between the wings, this is when the butterflies don't need their wings anymore and they're free from their bodies. So it's like moving on to the next step. And the pixels are like if that's a garden and they're above the garden and they're ready done with their wings and their wings are coming down. So
Oh,
that's what that.
that's beautiful. I mean, isn't that sort of like the story of life, like
Yeah.
your sister Shelley, she didn't need her wings down here anymore. She was set free,
Yeah.
from this physical reality. And both you and I both know, that we go on and life goes on, and we move into our soul self when we go into the spirit world, and so I think that's a beautiful, beautiful painting. So tell
And
us a
that's the
little bit.
first painting I ever did for myself.
Ah, very cool. Love it. Absolutely love it. Tell us a little bit about your Magicans.
Okay, so a long time ago, Susan, you sent me this wonderful poem that you and Mother Mary wrote. Did you know you have wings? Do you know you could fly? Do you know you were birthed from angels on high? And when I read it, I'm like, oh, I love this. Just so touches my heart. And I was talking to you, and I said, how much I like that. And you said, that's really cool because I think you're the one to illustrate it. And I'm like, I don't do cartoons. And then I had just sent for a CD from Brain Sync about increase your creativity with Kelly Howell. And I thought, okay. So I turned that on and I was listening to that. And within, I don't know, the 45 minutes, that CD, I had little thumbnail sketches for every single drawing that your book needed. And I love that so much. So my Imagikins kind of like the central figure on Did You Know You Had Wings? He kind of morphed into the Imagikins, one of the Imagikins. There are actually five of them. They have all five different personalities. Um, but they're just little beings that say uplifting things or little naughty things, things that lift your heart, things that make people smile. And I started creating them and I started, just doing little pictures of them and I sold them at the Mountain Spirit Co-op in Prescott, Arizona. And there came a time when two friends and I were like down to our money situation was getting worse and worse. And we're like all commiserating around my kitchen table. And we're like, what do we do? And in my ear, I hear whispered, greeting cards. So I'm like, okay, ladies, we're going to do greeting cards. So I put them on greeting cards and had them made, just a couple, and they sold really fast. And that led to getting them put into a local shop in Prescott, which led to a big card company in California picking them up. And they were sold all over the lower Western United States for a year, and they did really well. And then when I moved to Florida, I put them in a little book. And the thing that I love the most about them is when people talk about them, they'll touch their heart chakra. So it's subconscious. They're reaching in on that level. They're the softness, they're the kindness, they're the loving space that the angels open up when you're connected with angels. And I really like that. It connects very well to the inner child in people, as well as, the spirit person that likes a good pun or joke.
Right.
Yeah.
How can folks connect with you?
With my
Your
email,
Magicans, with your,
yeah,
do you have a website? Do you have,
I have a website with the Imagikins. It's just imagikins.com. And that will come back to me. And I have like a bazillion cards out there in the world someplace. I've kept the same phone number forever since I moved to Arizona. So no matter how many times I've moved, I keep the same phone number and email so that people can find me.
okay, great. Well, what we'll do is I'll put some connections with that website at the end. I think I could put some of your angel paintings and spirit guide paintings up at the back of this video if I can figure out how to do it. But I've got some help, and we'll be able to add that. And again, we're going to be adding Pamela's work to the Casa de Santa Maria website. If you would like to connect with her, you can do that through our website and order your own angel portrait or your own spirit guide portrait. And then, do you have like a newsletter you put out for
You know
folks?
what? I don't. I don't. I'm very bad at keeping all those connections with clients. So
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we'll have to help you do something about that.
yeah, that's just what I was thinking. I just heard you need to create like a page website. So I would have that and then people can do that.
Yes, can sign up for a newsletter or that kind of thing so they know what you're doing and where you are, and if they can find you at some other, expo, spiritual expo that you're going to, or if you're coming out here, to do a workshop or out
I
to
would love that.
Santa Maria,
Yeah.
and uh, I think we'll see you out here sometime. And
I would love that. I've often thought of that. That would bring me great joy.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think there's exciting things ahead. There's still a lot of work, still a lot of hearts for us to share information that they
Yes.
can choose to awaken their hearts to the incredible help that
Yes.
is available through life, through the angels,
Hmm.
um, through spirit, through Mother Mary, Jesus, God, once you're opened up to that world, it's amazing what can happen in your own life, in your own heart, and the creating and finding the divine love that you are.
It changes absolutely everything.
It
Yeah.
does indeed. Um, is there, off the top of your head, do you know if there's a message from the angels, maybe just for the world we live in these days? What would they say to how to navigate a world that can be very difficult,
Hmm.
yet probably very incredible once you tap into your own soul?
Well, it really is about love. It is about love. And how can you be love and bringing that energy through and focusing on that in all things? You can do it in small ways. We can't, realistically affect the whole entire world at one time. Most of us can't anyway. So thinking, how can I be loved in a tiny way today, where I am with the people that are around me? How can I do one thing that is loving? It starts changing things then there. Let yourself breathe. Don't get so keyed up in what you see in the news or whatever. Turn that stuff off and let yourself feel into the energy of love that's around you, because most people are good people. There's way more good people in the world than there are difficult people, and that I know for sure. The one thing that the angels always showed me was, um, when the light on the planet is the strongest, the shadows that come out are the sharpest. They're also the shortest. Okay. So if you can say, join together with other like-minded, loving people, the people that you know that are with you, sit in meditation, help each other, be that love for each other. That will really change things.
Hmm. Very good. And thank you, angels, for that. And thank you for being in our lives and
Yeah.
um, loving us, even when sometimes we can't even love ourselves, correct?
Absolutely. And oftentimes people have the hardest time loving themselves. You say, put your nose on a mirror and say, I love you in the mirror, and they'll start to cry. They can't even do that. You are loved all the time. There's never a time that you're not loved. Your angels are with you and they are so close to you. When you're the most scared, that's when they're the closest to you. It's like that's when they can whisper right in your ear.
Very, very, very good. Let's see. So I will add some of the photos of your angel drawings and paintings at the end of this video. I will put a link to your
Okay.
Magicans and a
Okay.
link to the Casa website where you can go and order your own session. Because I'm assuming you're still doing do a little bit of a write up about your spirit guide.
Always,
Yes,
always. Yeah,
yes.
that always comes with the picture or portrait. And then, if you just want to do a reading, if they don't, you don't have the money to spend on a big one, we'll just do a reading with the angel in and of itself. So,
Very,
and I
very
would never turn anybody away.
right,
Yeah.
right. So I love your process, of how you see them. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of thing. I've never, in my process, I always see in black and white, so I don't get a full blown color picture of. But I
Uh-huh.
do have to say, recently, when we did, I don't know if you saw the episode we did with Summer Bacon.
Yes, I love that.
Yes.
I'd never seen her before.
Oh, cool. And she talked about, having a vision of Jesus. And it was just a couple of days later, I went to go meditate, and I usually fall asleep, but I just dropped into this, and there he was sitting on the beach, the breeze, the ocean breeze in his hair. And he just looked at me, and it was like, wow, I've never had that happen, that it was so real. Do you know what I mean? So I imagine that's what it's like for you when
Yes.
you really see. But I would be, if I had to paint them, I'd be like, can you hold still? I got to get the exact, that kind of thing. But
But that's the energy almost takes over itself. Like when I was painting Jesus, that I'm like watching my hands and they're just flying and doing their own thing. I'm just grabbing the colors they tell me to choose at the time. So that was really a different kind of painting.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So if you think about it, if you have a digital of that Jesus painting,
I
we'll put
do.
it up on the end of the video as well.
Okay.
And we'll figure out how to get people in contact with you and that kind of thing. And I really
Oh,
appreciate your time and thank you for being an extraordinary soul.
oh,
And
and thank you for everything you and Milt have done for me on my journey and for all the wonderfulness that you bring for so many of us. It's always exciting to see the new things happening at the casa.